Please welcome to the show Moishe Gruda. He's the local author of Tricks of Fate. Vanna, please. It's Tricks of Fate, Escape, Survival, and Rescue, 1939 to 1945. This is a memoir of Mr. Gruda's World War II experiences. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
This book, you have been wanting to write. You were telling us a little bit about it earlier. It's been in the works now for what, 25 years?
Actually, I was thinking about 20 years that this should be written down for people to know what Jews who ended up in Russia experienced. And I felt that it's time that somebody should write. So I undertook this 5 years ago. And finally, it's in.
It's out there, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. And I guess one of the most important things, reasons why you wrote this book is because there aren't very many books that talk about some of the Jewish people that managed to survive through this period of time.
Especially, there's not enough books for the people who survived in Russia.
Okay.
And I felt that there's a lot of stories there which is worth that children should understand and know that those Jews who survived, they never gave up hope that they'll make it through the tough times and they'll continue their life in normalcy.
I'm actually very curious to know, when you were in the process of writing this and sort of reflecting back on what happened, was it painful, revisiting some of those memories?
This was one of the reasons why I did not start earlier, because I knew that if I want to write the true story, I'll have to go through the same experiences in my thoughts to be a genuine story. So it was painful. A matter of fact, many sleepless nights I endured because I had to reconstruct the dates, because naturally I did not have any notes.
Yeah.
One of the people who read the book, he said, "How did you manage to have the notes during the war?" I said, "I didn't have notes." I had to reconstruct that the dates, that it flows in order. And this took me a lot of thought.
Can you talk to us about maybe one of the most emotional things that you had to go over again?
Okay, now as the book is out, and I'm relieved a little of the story, so I'll tell you that one especially story from the book which made me decide to write a book. And I'm not going to tell you the story because it would not come out exactly the way I wrote it. But there are so many other stories. I know one thing, that the people who read the book, they all send me emails.
Really?
Yeah, I have a bunch of emails which I know that you could not read it here, but I have a lot of emails.
From people that
From
are
people
probably...
who read the book. I never expected this, but apparently it touched.
It's really touching a lot of people. And I read that throughout this time, you know, this book is about some of the hardships and the triumphs, but it's also about your journey to reunite your family. Yeah,
there's a lot in the book about the way we got lost, and the way we found each other. It's I don't know what to say. Whoever wants to know, they should read the book.
Okay.
That's all.
Maybe you could tell us about the writing process. I mean, this is your first book, and you're 87 years old now. Very impressive. What was the whole process like?
I started to write in English. I did 25 pages, and I felt that I did not do justice to the stories. So I switched to my native language, and I wrote it in Yiddish. Then I was contacted to a Professor Adam Furstenberg. He was also a survivor. he lived through, although he was a small child. I was 20 years old when the war started. But he had the feeling, this professor, about my stories, because he heard at home, so it was easier for him, although he could not do it by himself. We were sitting for every line together, and this took us a couple years.
Wow.
And it was a fruitful cooperation between me and him, and the product is there.
Morris, maybe you can talk to us about, seeing as you've lived through World War II, what are your thoughts, and how do you feel about, I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know, there's wars still happening today. What do you have to say about that
You are
subject?
completely right. We were under the impression, after living through the war, that finally there will be peace among people. But the way the life goes on now, with hatred that some countries threatens other countries to wipe them up of the face of the earth, you wonder that nothing changed. And sometimes I'm very pessimistic, but in my nature, even in the worst period of time during the war, I always said, never lose hope. A matter of fact, the title for the book supposed to be Never Lose Hope. But the publisher felt that he was like to change, but he was right, because the title is better, Tricks of Fate, because there are many things that happened during this period. Is Tricks of Fate.
Tricks of Fate. Couldn't say it better myself. Who would you like to read this book? Is it people that are of the Jewish faith, or is it anybody, Morris?
I would think, at the beginning, when I was thinking to write a book, I was thinking just about my children and grandchildren, that they should know who their grandfather was, because during the certain days I ask people, do you know your grandfather? Is he a newcomer? So do you know from which city he is? How he managed to survive?
Wow.
They don't know. So I was thinking, this is for me important, that my grandchildren should know.
Thank you so much. So anybody can really read it, though. It's
for
great
everybody.
because you can get it on Amazon.com, and really there's a lot to be learned from this book, Tricks of Fate.